John Lennon and Paul McCartney were an unrivaled songwriting partnership, but their relationship soured in the late 1960s. Tensions within the Beatles simmered in the second half of the decade, affecting recording sessions for The White Album, Let It Be, and Abbey Road. John and Paul became estranged due to disagreements over creative matters and Yoko Ono's presence in the studio, which led to conflicts. In August 1969, the band recorded their final song, The End, which was included on Abbey Road. A month later, John told his bandmates that he was quitting and wanted a divorce from the Beatles. Paul, distraught by this, went into hiding and recorded McCartney, his debut solo album. With the release of the album in April 1970 came Paul's announcement that he was splitting up with the Beatles. Almost exactly 1 month following the band's formal split, in May 1970, the band's last album, Let It Be, was released to the public. The publication of Let It Be, which included recordings produced by Paul, John, Ringo Starr, and George Harrison between 1968 and 1970, exacerbated the already existing animosity amongst the band members. The 4 members of the band were worried about the future of their careers and their finances due to a dispute that had been building up since 1969 about Alan Klein's appointment as manager. There was tension since the May release of Let It Be was scheduled to coincide with the McCartney album. In April 1970, Paul announced his resignation from the Beatles in a press statement. He revealed that he had already informed his bandmates about the publication of McCartney that would accompany the announcement. Ringo went to Paul's house with a letter from Paul, John, and George, requesting that he change the release date of the album because record firm Apple wanted to avoid a conflict, and Paul refused to speak to Apple because of his distaste of Alan Klein. When Paul was told no, he kicked Ringo out of his home. In the short period following the breakup, relations would not improve. After the release of both Let It Be and McCartney in December 1970, Paul took legal action by suing the band in the High Court to end their contract. March 1971 saw the court's decision in his favor. The second studio album by Paul, Ram, came out in May 1971. The song Too Many People was on it, and he claimed in subsequent interviews that it poked fun at John. During an interview with Playboy in 1984, Paul mentioned that he remembered there being a small mention of John throughout the entire event.